Less stress, more time, more money. Welcome to the Cash Flow Contractor Deep Dive.
How's your Starbucks, Martin?
Hey, I am hooked, but it's not on coffee. It's on walking. I got to get up and walk around every now and then.
That's what it is? You're blaming it on walking now?
It is. Hey, man, I got to watch.
Is that below the line or above the line?
No, it's the truth.
Okay.
Sometimes there's the truth. No, my watch always tells me to move, So, but I got back from a 60-mile bike ride. I was walking in my garage and my watch started buzzing. And I look down and it goes, move. Drop dead.
Yeah, of
Garmin.
course. You didn't move enough.
Well, it doesn't count pedaling. It's got to be steps, I guess.
You, for those who don't know where Martin's office is, it's in the same center area as a Starbucks. That's what, 200 yards?
Oh, it's not that far, but
Not
something
that far.
like that. Yeah.
Close, really close. So he's always going over there to get coffee, and he's not getting any of those girly drinks though. He's a black coffee, Pike's Place.
The rest of that stuff, I don't know where that stuff. That's what's wrong with America right there. Pumpkin latte spice.
Yeah.
No, but then I feel obliged to buy coffee when I go there, and it's $2.66 a cup, and I can make my Folgers at home for 0.5 cents. So
now, are you going there multiple times a day or no?
Yeah.
You get refills.
No, they don't.
Really?
They used to. I could get a free refill, and then they put up a sign. I think my refill count reached corporate headquarters, and they sent out a memo, and it said, there has been a misunderstanding. If you stay there, they'll give you a refill. But if you walk out the door, it's ka-ching, resets the meter.
Gotcha.
So anyway, I'm spending about $700 a month on coffee.
Yeah.
Something like that. More than my first house payment used to be anyway.
Well, speaking of coffee, I'm trying to think of a way to tie this in. I've grabbed coffee with salespeople before, right?
Yeah, there you go.
There we
I've
go.
grabbed something else.
Salespeople.
Hey, I have to tell you a story.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. Well, I don't drink. I hope that doesn't diminish me in the eyes of anybody listening. But
well, it's because you get headaches, right?
Yeah, I get headaches. There's not a problem, except headaches are a problem. But 15, 20 years ago, we used to sell big equipment, big machinery, and I was down in a mining town with a bunch of miners, and our dealer down there, we're sitting in a hotel bar, and everybody's drinking. So I got up and I went over to the bar, and I told the young lady there, I said, do you have iced tea? And she said, no. And I said, well, I want you to take soda water and put it in a glass, and then just take enough Coke and just discolor it. And I said, yeah, I want it to look like it's whiskey. And I said, if anybody orders around, that's what you bring me, and you go ahead and charge, $8 or whatever. So she did, and I sat there the whole night. But I have to tell you, had they found out, they would have killed me. And that's
really.
Oh yeah. I mean, if you're sitting there faking like you're drinking with guys and you're not, and they catch you, well, let's put it that way. I thought I was taking my life in my own hands. And,
oh goodness, that's good.
Cleo, you need to come down to some of these places.
I'm sure. Maybe I just don't know the crowds.
These were big old boys. And,
big old boys.
Yeah. And if I was too good to drink with them, I mean, that's how they might have interpreted it, or I was trying to, stay sober while they got drunk. But anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a death-defying act.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how to tie that into what we're talking about, but I'm just going to transition.
Oh, and I did a website about that.
Yeah, there's a website about that.
Actually, I think that was before websites, honestly.
Probably. So this topic came up, website versus a salesman, because of a case study video of one of our clients that you watched, and we're like, oh, let's do an episode on that. And basically, what was it? Almost 2 years ago, started working with a client, and great company, had done really well, but immediately knew that there were some issues with their digital presence, not just their website, but their social media accounts, their ranking on Google, their Google My Business account, all these different areas online. And so we came in to help fix that. And, they had two salespeople, and they were a little bit frustrated with just the performance that they were seeing online. They felt like they could capture more of a local audience. They were getting customers locally, but from national accounts that would essentially sub out to them, more or less. And they wanted to go direct to consumer, direct to the local customers that they could reach, and they were struggling to do that. That's why we were coming in to help with the digital presence. And so that's why this conversation came up. And I'll share more about the results of everything here almost 2 years later at the end of the episode. But it's an interesting thing, especially as we look at small businesses. I think as you look at large enterprise companies, they have a lot of theories and strategies and proof in the pudding of what they've done on their website and on their sales team. But when you get down, what I've seen when you get down to the contractor level, the contractor that's got 100, 200 employees or less, it's completely different. It's a different ball game. And there's a lot that we can learn from some of these enterprise companies, but even just some things that they don't even do can help can help contractors. So what I wanted to start by doing is really defining what a good salesman is, who they are, what they do. Also defining what a good website, and then talking about the difference, the why aligning the two, a salesperson and a website, are really important. So, how did you define a good salesman, Martin?
Well, just backfilling just a little bit, the other issue with the client you're talking about had two salesmen, but he'd been through a whole bunch of salesmen. So,
right, of course.
And the problem there was he was
like
perpetually mad. What are they doing? Where are they spending their time? Putting GPS on the trucks finally and finding out they're doing this and that.
Right.
And so I define a good salesman as being not like the salesman that this client had. But
sure,
I'm kidding. I guess one of the obvious thing is a good salesman sells. Okay.
Yeah.
But there's a lot to that. It's not necessarily a good salesman if they sell, but they're disruptive to the company culture. And a lot of salesmen can be that way. And a lot of salesmen are protected because if they sell, owners a lot of times will put up with all kinds of behavior, maybe behavior they wouldn't put up with a 3-year-old at home, because they're kind of held hostage to the idea that they have sales. So really a good salesman is more than just somebody who sells. They don't disrupt the company culture, and they cultivate relationships with customers. So they build a long-term relationship that immediately results in a sale without disrupting everybody, and also leads to future sales because they've built a relationship. Now, old days customers also were lead generators. They were out prospecting, not just going after the people who had contacted the company, or but they're also out there doing everything from marketing used to just be some advertising. So they might take somebody who called in, but if not, they'd cold call people, repeatedly cold call them, establish a relationship, nurture that relationship, get opportunities, close the deal. One of the problems with that, I guess we're not really into all the problems, but one of the problems to that is oftentimes the relationship is with that salesman and not with the company. And so if that salesman jumps to ship, a lot of times customers go with them. So I think that answered your question. A good salesman can sell without disrupting everything, but more than that, cultivates relationships with customers on behalf of the company, not on behalf of his or herself.
Absolutely. And this really does tie into the next point pretty well, but in line with what you're saying, in my eyes, a good salesperson knows who they're selling to extremely well, knows their needs, if they have a relationship with them, if they're relational, then they're going to know those things. But then they're also selling to the right clients, the right products or services at the right price. And that's something that we see a lot of is, you can go find a salesman that's going to sell you a ton of business, but is it to the right clients that aren't giving you
That's
headaches?
really, really good point. Yeah.
And then are they also selling at the right price, or are they always discounting, or are they only selling the services that don't have the right margins?
Right.
So that's how I define it. They know their audience, they know their needs, and then they sell the right product services at the right price.
And I think one thing we kind of need to add, because a lot of people listening here bid jobs and they don't think of that as selling. They get the opportunity and then they go,
Sure.
oh, well, I'm going to bid that job and I either get it or don't based on price.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll talk about this a lot in future podcasts, but you're going to talk about it a little bit today with the USP.
Yeah.
It's not always the low bidder. And if you're sitting out there thinking, well, it is here, just think about some of the bids you've lost where somebody
Absolutely.
who bid more, and then we always say, well, that's because they were crooked or they had some pipeline or well, it's not always the low price. Price is tough, but a good salesman will get you opportunities and get you consideration because they've represented your company so well. So that's a
Absolutely.
good point.
I mean, there's a reason why, you're on, you make it on the bid list. There's a reason why you get a request for proposal. And it's not because you're always the lowest bidder.
Right.
So now I probably have a little bit more to say about this part, but just want to talk about why it's important that marketing and sales are aligned. And I just want to give an example, I've got a client who, whenever we started working with them, they were on a software that was essentially their project management software. They could go in, they could do all their sales through there and then manage the project through there. So they could go in, send a proposal, get payment through the proposal, then it goes directly onto the shop floor where they start building the project, and then it shows where the location is so they can go install it. Everything's on this project management software. And it's great for the sales side. But on the marketing side, it didn't sort or filter information. It didn't bring in customers directly or leads directly from the website. It didn't, carry over all the email and contact information they had before they bought or got the proposal. It just wasn't connected to the marketing. And that huge disconnect caused so many problems, and so many opportunities didn't end up getting proposals because they didn't have the marketing and the sales aligned. That's on the software side only, but in many other respects, it's the same way. If your website, which is considered your marketing, does not have the same capabilities as your sales team, then when your sales team goes and meets with somebody, it's like they don't have the content to go and deliver on that conversation they're about to have. I know sales teams or salespeople that will go in and have so much confidence because they know if they have a question from a customer, they're not only going to be able to answer it in person or over the phone or via email, but they're also going to be able to link to a resource on the website, to 5 different articles on the website that address those issues, and then a video that they made last year that talks exactly about the problem that customer or client's having. And whenever you have those two aligned, it really makes a big impact. Now, conversely, on the marketing side, if you're marketing, you're hiring an agency, or you've got a marketing person in-house, or you're doing it yourself, if you're just going out and running ads and posting stuff out that the sales team doesn't know about, or the sales team doesn't care about, it's almost pointless. If you're running a discount on Facebook and then the salespeople don't know about it, and then they get a call saying, "Hey, I hear you're offering this discount," like, what news to me? You just made me look stupid in a sales conversation. So they have to be aligned. You've got to have them working together. Also the salespeople usually know the customers more than the marketers, because they're having actual conversations face to face with people. So the marketing team needs to be talking to the sales team to understand the pain points, the questions that are asked, all these different things, so they can do better marketing. So it's really important that the two are aligned. Martin, anything that you've seen?
Well, one thing we might just for clarity is just say marketing is attracting the leads and sales is closing the deal.
Right.
And it's a continuum. And the more the marketing, I mean, to your point, they have to be delivering a consistent message. I mean,
Yeah.
that's your main point there. But also, the more you can do with marketing, answering questions that salesmen always hear, and all this, and it's in marketing, they're pre-answered by the time the guy comes in, and they're not cold calls, they're warm calls. That's
Yep.
cliche, but there's a big difference. People
Oh,
hate
big difference.
people hate most people hate cold calling. But if somebody calls in and wants to talk to you and is pre-sold or very close, people love that. I mean, who among
Yeah.
us doesn't love that?
Oh, for sure. Those are the best ones. It makes you feel good. Um, well, let's dive deeper. So let's talk about, what are the benefits you see of having a website versus a salesman? And I know we can kind of bounce back and forth on these a little bit, but
Well,
why
I
don't you
mean,
start us off?
there's so many things. It's not, we'll talk about this more, but it's not interruptive. In other words, you're not going out and bothering somebody on the phone or even in a
Mhm.
magazine ad where you're interrupting what they're doing to give them your message. By finding you on the website, they are looking for you and you are making yourself available. And you can define it more accurately than I can, but that's inbound marketing as opposed to outbound marketing. Inbound marketing through a website, it's working 24/7. You might think your customers uh, looking from 9 to 5 or 7:30 to 6 o'clock
Yeah.
or something, but they could be lying awake at night and hop on the internet, right?
Well, I think
And
that's true of all of us, right? We're
yeah,
all sitting on our phones doing things.
yeah,
I'll go back to that, outbound versus inbound, the way that I would think about it, outbound being a megaphone, which just imagine me throwing a megaphone in front of your face and talking to you.
listen to me. Yeah,
Inbound would be more of a magnet where they're coming to you to talk to you.
right.
That's kind of, the way that I describe those. And to give you the example of why this is important today, right? Websites haven't been around forever, right? Salespeople have been around for a very long time. 20 years ago, you go to buy a new car. Well, you're not actually able to really look it up on a website at that point, but you're going to have to go to, the 5, 6, 7 lots that are around you, see what they have on the lot. You don't know anything about the cars because all the power is in the hands of the seller, right? The salesperson
Right.
knows what's on the lot. He knows everything about the make, the model, the trim. And so you've got to go and do your research by literally going and talking to salespeople because they had all the power. Now everyone's got a computer in their pocket with their iPhone or their Android, whatever it is, and they come to the lot. They know infinitely more about the car they want than the salesperson does because the car just arrived in the lot 2 hours before, was put on the website. They did all the research. They've been researching from that, specific make, model, and trim for months. They saw that it came at the right price. They know exactly what they want to negotiate to. And the salesperson's like, I don't think we have that on the lot. And you're like, well, it just got here 2 hours ago. Well, let me go check. And so that's the power of inbound, is that your customers, your clients can go and do all the research they want without even talking to you.
Matter of fact, they are doing it.
Yeah,
And one of the
absolutely.
questions is, are you there?
Yeah. So are you going to be there for them to do research with you? Is
Right.
your website going to pull up to give them the answers they need? Um, so that's a really important thing to think about, is the outbound versus inbound. And you're right. It does work around the clock. Your salespeople leave at 5 or whatever their shift is, but 24/7, your website's online.
Yeah, I just bought a truck, and I don't buy vehicles very often, but I'm always, it's long enough in between that I don't even know the prices. I mean,
Hmm.
no clue. And I do all that on the internet and get familiar with the packages and all that stuff before I even go look. And literally, I walked in with a sticker from a truck and handed it to the guy and said, well, I went around several places, but the guy went and got it for me from another dealer. But
Yeah.
uh, yeah, and I think another advantage of having a presence on the internet is it enables, or it's an extension of what we've been talking about. It enables people to get to know you without having to talk to you.
Hmm.
And so you can put a presence on the internet about your company, about yourself, about your product, about to show that you have empathy and authority. You understand their problems and that you know how to solve them. without having to go through that conversation every time somebody calls you. And you can
Yeah.
also control it a little bit. I don't know if anybody else is like this, but there are some days when I feel really good talking to people. And there are, I think, some other days when I'm not doing myself any favor by talking to people just because of the way I feel that day or whatever it is.
Sure.
So I can control it a little bit. And that doesn't mean that you falsify anything, but you can control it and put out there. Well, there's another thing that if you, because you do this to me because of the podcast we're on, you go, well, Martin, what are 20 things that people ask you? Oh, crap. Well, I can list 100 if you give me a few minutes.
Right.
But if I'm concentrating on, hey, what are things people want to know and how can I address that? And what do they care about? And I've got a website, I can begin to accumulate those, refine them. Pardon?
You can have an archive.
Yeah, I can have an
all the
archive,
questions you get.
and it can improve over time. And when I think about it, I'm not having to recall it every
Yeah.
time somebody gets on the phone.
Yeah.
So it's a repository of your knowledge,
Absolutely.
And
well, I think there's two things that I want to say with that. Yes, they can get to know you without talking to you. And honestly, that's usually the preference of people. How many times have you not wanted to get into a sales conversation with someone because you don't want to be sold to? Right. And you're like, do you have a business card or do you have a website that I can look at?
Right.
I mean, you hear it all the time. Do you have any information? And so, I mean, I know that salespeople, I've met some salespeople that have left a company because they didn't feel like they had the materials they needed to sell better. And essentially it was a website in the long run. The website was awful and people would be like, okay, I'll check you out online. And immediately the salesperson would cringe. Like, please don't come, please don't go to the website. No, let's have coffee. And I know there are contractors listening right now that have experienced that. They're like, oh, I'll check out your website. And inside they're kind of like, well, let me actually just take you to show you a job that I did recently or something like that.
Well, and there are two sets of people listening to us, I think, running through their minds is if you're a remodeler and you're dealing with the public, let's say that's for an example, you're nodding your head and agreeing and saying, yeah, I got to have that because Susie Homemaker or the man of the house who's doing it, whatever it is, they're going to go to my website and I understand that. But there are other people sitting there saying, hey, I bid flooring jobs in public schools. They don't care about my website. Well, yeah, they do.
Yeah, they do.
Because they're voting, and yes, price matters, but you have to be qualified. And it's, I think 10 years ago, at least, certainly 20 years ago, if you didn't have a good website, you could still be considered a reasonable person. If you don't have a website right now, even if everything else, it's just like,
Well, and what I like to say, I mean, for a lot of people, it is the first impression, and people do judge a book by its cover.
Right.
If your salesperson went to all their sales meetings in white tank tops, flip flops, and sunglasses, and a swimsuit on, they would consider it to be a joke. They would feel like it's not a legitimate salesperson. And yeah, they maybe as a contractor, your salespeople, they're wearing boots and they're wearing jeans and maybe a button-up shirt, but maybe they don't need to be wearing a suit, but there is a standard for sure. Right. And if the salesperson does show up in the suit, if they do look really professional and sharp, it's bonus points. It's like, wow, like I feel like this is someone I need to respect. And so the same thing goes with your website. I mean, the first impression has got to be really great. So
right.
Let's transition
I've had people, just real quickly, I've had people tell me, oh, it's not that important. People don't really look at it and get on their phone to look up where we were going to go eat. I said, come on. Anyway, go ahead. You were going to say.
Exactly. Well, I mean, as we're talking about websites, like what does it take to make a website successful? And I can share a lot of these, but I know we've talked about this a lot. We even just, our last episode, we talked about our last deep dive, we talked about USPs and unique selling proposition, how that needs to be on your website. It's got to be clear. They've got to know how you're going to help them and why you're the person to help them. So you've got to have that clear messaging. What was that?
If they didn't hear the last one, what's a USP?
Yeah. Unique selling proposition. Go listen to it if you want to learn more about that. But the biggest thing that I think people miss on a website is a call to action. And I mean, that's kind of like the story that I started with. There were no calls to action on the website. There was a contact us button, and that was it. And to me, that is not a call to action. A call to action is get a quote, schedule a consultation,
learn more,
get a free design session. Not learn more. It's not. I mean, learn more is maybe go to another page on the website, but something that actually requires them to fill out a form, give you a call, get in touch with you. That is a clear call to action. Download this ebook, right? Or whatever it is.
That's where I'm going with the learn more. I'm thinking about my website, but I may have to change it. But that's your fault because you're my
no,
marketing.
It didn't say learn more, does it?
I think so. Yeah, and it takes me to the resources.
It
goes to resources where you can download ebooks.
Right. If you want to, it's for get tools right to your inbox.
Right,
learn more.
Right. But to do all those things, you have to fill out a form.
Right. So the learn more isn't the call to action. The resources are the call to action. Okay. If they want to get those resources, they've got to click download now or, whatever it is. And that's how they fill in a form to be able to get that resource. So having a cleared out call to action for most contractors, it's going to be request a bid. It's going to be speak to a technician, schedule a consultation, speak to an expert, schedule an assessment, schedule a design consultation, anything along those lines. That's get a free estimate, right? Those are great calls to action that contractors should have on their website. After calls to action, I think it's also really important to have a plan. And Donald Miller talks about this in StoryBrand. Typically, whenever you have a plan on a website, or even if you're just talking about, hey, what does it look like for me to buy a product from you? You would be like, okay, well, first we'd have a phone call, then we'd schedule a time for me to come by and meet with you. And then we'd go and we'd look through everything that you need. And then I would come up with a quote, and then you would look through the quote and sign it. Then we get a deposit. And then once I've gotten the deposit, I schedule a time to come out and actually do the work. And then I do the work over the course of a couple of days. And then I send you an invoice. And then I ask you for a review, and we take pictures of your project or whatever it is. And you've got like 10 steps, right? That's not what your customers need to know. It's too confusing. It's too complicated. You need to give them a really clear plan, even if it's just condensing it in all of the steps into 3 steps. I would never do more than 4 steps in your plan, but do 3. Simple as call and schedule a time with us. We come out and get you a quote. We schedule the work and do it. 3 steps. Boom. Right? If someone's going to request a bid, send us your project details. We'll come up with a bid. We'll do a meeting to give you a proposal or whatever it is. We'll follow up to answer any questions, right? Whatever it is, make it a 3-step plan and make it seem really easy, because the last thing someone wants to do is come to your website and feel like they've got to go through a bunch of hoops and hurdles just to be able to work with you.
Make it easy to do business.
Absolutely. Next thing that makes a website successful is just having clear answers, right? Like, how many times have you gone to a website and not been able to find what you were looking for and then just leave?
Right.
There's somebody else that's going to have my answer.
Right. And there's a real talent to understanding what people want answers to. Mm-hmm. And as a contractor who's been in business for years, you pretty well know the questions you get.
Absolutely.
And it's fantastic. And objections that you get. And Donald Miller also makes a great point that among your first answers should be clear. Among your first questions should be objections that you get and your answers to those objections.
Absolutely.
But yeah, Marcus Sheridan was an inbound guy, used to be a pool contractor, wrote a book.
Still is.
Well, still, yeah. But he went through, I guess 2008 about wiped him out. He couldn't figure out what to do, so he just started inbound marketing, and he's kind of one of the pioneers. But he said, what do people want to know? And I think he came up with 4 or 5, but I remember one of them. People might cringe when they hear this. He said, but what do they want to know when they come to your site? They want to know the cost.
Absolutely.
But nobody wants to put that on there because, well, whatever, I'll scare them off. Well, guess what? You want to scare off the ones that are kicking your tires and taking your time.
Yeah, you want to qualify them. You
right,
don't want to
qualify them. So they want to know the cost. They want to know what problems they could possibly have. One of his great questions, I don't think I remember all 5, but one of the great questions was, if not you, who? So, hey, we think we're the best in the world. We're the best pool contractor in the world. But if you got to use somebody else, there's this company over here, and they're pretty good.
Yep.
And you want to talk about your stock going up. Yeah.
Well, the reason why they did that, they wrote an article of all their competitors, saying, why they were good, what were the good things about them, all these different things. And they didn't even mention themselves in the article. But the reason why they did that is because anytime all of their competitors had really bad websites. And so anytime somebody searched for one of their competitors on Google, that article came up with the website of this company. And so you'd be searching for a different pool company, and then you'd get Marcus Sheridan's pool company. So anyways.
Well, I didn't realize he puts that out as one of the things to do. I did not realize.
Oh, absolutely. You should.
Yeah. Well, your stock goes up too. I think everybody here knows you don't badmouth your competitors. I mean, at worst, just keep your mouth shut. But
right,
it usually doesn't help you to tell somebody else how bad your competitor is, because they figure that's the way you're talking all the time. But yeah, you want clear answers that people are going to go find out. And as contractors, if you got any experience at all, which I'm sure you do, you know what people are going to ask. So answer it. And you're not going to have to do that in person 20 times over, because they can read it for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, usually you're already answering these questions in sales conversations, right, and they're in your head. You just got to get them on the paper. You got to get them online.
Yep.
The last thing and there's a lot more that you can add, right? You can add, and I think they really fall into these categories, but you can add other content like articles, resources, those kinds of things, but really they fall under these categories. The last one that I really think is super important is clear proof, just making sure that people can find proof that you are the right decision. So that would be testimonials, reviews, case studies of a project that you worked on. Most importantly for contractors, in my opinion, I mean, I can't believe this. It's such a visual thing, especially if you're working directly with homeowners. Your work is a visual thing for your audience. They care about what it looks like and how functional it is, right? If you don't have professional, high quality photos and videos on your website of your work, people will never want to work with you because of what you've done in the past, unless they're seeing it in person. But if you're taking a crappy cell phone picture and putting it on your website, and that's your pride and joy, that people are like, I mean, it should be a photo that really makes them step back and say, wow, I want that. Right. That's what I need. And that's what's going to get you people in the door if they can see your work. For a lot of contractors, we even make little catalogs, not just for, homeowners, but for designers and for builders and other, GCs that they're trying to work with if they're a sub. And it goes a long way to have high quality photos, even with other contractors, because it makes them feel like, oh, wow, yeah, this is what it should look like. Right. And it gives them a confidence. So those were the 5 things, clear USP, which we could, unique selling proposition. I consider that your messaging. So clear messaging, clear calls to action, a clear plan for how they can work with you, clear answers to their questions, and then clear proof that you're the right decision for them. Those are the 5 things that I think you need for your website to be successful.
And a computer.
Once you do have a website, what's that, Martin?
And a computer, so you can look at it.
Yeah, or a phone or whatever it is, right? And then there's things that fall underneath that. Like if you've got a poor website, well, then it's not clear, so it can't do any, website layout. If you don't have a good layout for it or design, it's not clear, right? If it's not mobile optimized, you can only view it on the desktop and not on your cell phone. It's not clear, right? So yeah, there's all those bits and pieces. But as far as what you can actually go do, those are the 5 things that I
Now,
would do.
I'm not the marketing guy on this podcast, so I'm going to say this. Don't do all that stuff yourself. First of all, I've got an article on this on our website, but first of all, you're not going to be very good at it. And if you are good at it, then maybe you ought to go do that and quit being a contractor. It's not the best use of your time. People can tell when it was done by an amateur. Find a good professional to do it for you. Don't do it. It goes for the pictures and the videos too. Same
everything.
Thing. Just
Yeah,
get the pros to do it, and you go be a contractor and get one more job, and you'll pay for all of it.
Absolutely. You don't need to add another hat to your plate. You don't need to be wearing another hat of now you're doing all the marketing. Now you're in charge of the website. It's going to stress you out. Go spend time with your family, right? Go work on your business and not in it. Right. So then, the next problem is you build that, let's say you go and do all this stuff to the website, unless you're passing out flyers and getting out business cards to everybody left and right, you have to actually drive traffic to your website, and that's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen organically very quickly. It can happen organically, but you still have to do things to make that happen.
What do you call that? The zone of
the
despair?
gap of disappointment.
The zone of despair.
Zone of despair. The gap of disappointment.
Well, they need to know about that.
Oh, absolutely. You go and you build this website and you're so proud of it. And then for the next week, it's crickets. The next month, it's crickets. The next quarter, it's crickets. And it's because you have to go and drive traffic to your website. And I will stress, it's important that you build your website first, and at least have it in a presentable manner. Maybe it doesn't have every little aspect and it's not completely finished. Your website should be a living, breathing thing that is continually updated. But don't have, a website from 2008 and then go and run a bunch of ads and go and post on social media with links to your website and go and get into the press and get a press release going and all these different things. Make sure your website's really great and has all of those 5 clear things done. Then, go run some Google ads, run some ads on Facebook and Instagram, then go get on Home Advisor or whatever it is. Start posting to Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram. Go and, get a local news station to do a story about you, whatever it is. Make sure that you are trying to deliberately drive traffic to your website. Go put your website on business cards, on trucks, on any collateral that you have. Ask friends and family to go and promote it for you, right? You've got to drive traffic to your website for it to actually work for you. If nobody visits it, it's like a salesperson who never has a meeting with a potential client or a lead, who never picks up the phone. Well, of course they're not going to sell. It doesn't matter if they have all the knowledge in the world. So that's what I would highly recommend. What problems have you seen a website solve, Martin?
Oh man. First of all, it provides clarity to the people who visit, and even more than that, if you do a good job of your website, it provides clarity to you. And again,
Absolutely.
If you try to do all this yourself, you're not necessarily going to benefit. But if you're working with a good professional marketing company that understands strategy as well as just how to put up a website, they will force you to make decisions about what it is you do, what it is your customers care about. Jack of all trades, master of none. What is it? That Chinese guy, chase 2 rabbits, catch none. Yeah. So it forces clarity on you, and it provides clarity to your readers or to your visitors. I think in the customer's mind, it helps remove doubt and clarify things. It's the social or it's the testimonials that you talk about, the photos, the videos, the reviews, the case studies. And by the way, if you don't have a website and you get a good review, what are you going to do with it? Write it on a piece of paper or try to remember it it goes nowhere. If you got a website, you get a good review, you're thinking, hey, I got to get that to Khalil and get that on my website. Or maybe you're even thinking, Khalil tells me I need another testimonial, I'm going to ask for one. So it does that. Your credibility goes way up. I've had a number of clients in the last year or so with what I call 90s websites. And they're not, matter of fact, I got in a big argument with one client whom I happen to really, really like. But I said, that's an ancient website and it's doing you no good. Well, you can't prove that. That's just your damn opinion. I go, you're right. It's my opinion, but it's also freaking true. If you got blank, I mean, you can tell when a website came out of the 80s, or well, not the 80s, the 90s, something across the top and then the tabs down the side. People, even if they're not aware of why, as soon as they look at it, they can tell this guy hadn't looked at that website, or maybe it's got wood grains on the background, some where it's a black piece of paper with purple letters on it. It's just something that, so, if you have a good modern quote unquote website properly put together, it's instant credibility, even though that it's not all the credibility you need, but your stock goes up. And it's very much damaged if you don't have one or if you have the old 1990s website.
Yeah. I think also, it frees you up more than anything.
Yeah.
I think people don't realize how much time they spend doing support and answering questions and then having sales conversations that lead to nowhere because they're not good leads. Like, your website can handle all of that for you. It sells for you, it qualifies for you, it answers questions for you. It gives people a way to reach you in a way that you want to be reached with. If you don't want phone calls and you want emails, you can make that happen. Or if you want phone calls and not emails, you can make that happen all through your website.
Right.
And so I think it solves a lot of administrative problems, a lot of sales problems, and a lot of
people
customer service
deselect themselves. I think you said that, but I had a client who he develops websites. So that's a contractor, but not with concrete and lumber. But he would get a lot of fun. These are complex websites. They manage inventory. They do e-commerce. They're complex. Yeah. And he was getting a lot of calls from people. And he said, "Oh, average website at that time was about $4,500 or more than that now." And these people would say, "Well, I can get one for $350 from my brother-in-law's kid," And he said, "Well, you can't get." So he sent me an email of a firm that was having that problem, and right at the top, it said our average website costs $104,651.25, and it was one of those meters, that. In other words, you want a $300 website, don't waste the energy clicking the button, because that's not us. And somebody who's looking for social validation said, "Well, hey, that must be our guy." That's the old reassuringly expensive.
Yeah.
$100,000 websites, those are the guys we want to talk to. So, yeah, it sells for you, it qualifies for you, it unloads that burden of explaining everything you've explained 9 million times, and it does it all while you sleep and your customer's looking.
Absolutely. Well, I do want to finish up our, diving deep into this, that it's not necessarily that, we talked about the title, a website versus a salesman. I think that a website can absolutely replace a salesperson, but I think you can really, and maybe not in the same, season or quarter or even year, but you can really dominate your market and really hire top-notch salespeople and make them want to join your company if you have a really good website. And when you have both a really powerful website that's performing well and optimized to convert customers and a really good salesman, you will really start to see some incredible growth. I mean, we've got a contractor right now who, man, they've got 2 salespeople, one in 2 different markets. And we're in August right now. We're talking about solving problems because they're booked out through March of 2021.
Yeah.
Because they have great salesmen and their website is great. I mean, we're getting requests for quotes probably 4 a day. Just churning leads in and in. So it's really powerful once you get both working together.
Yep. One thing we didn't mention real quickly is that a website's a lot cheaper than a salesman too. They don't necessarily obviously
Sure.
replace them, but once you're confident of it, you don't have commissions that add to your variable cost. You can buy
Right.
a lot of website and a lot of marketing for the cost of a salary.
Yeah.
So anyway, don't always replace them, but they might replace a fleet of them, and you have a few super sharp closers.
Yeah.
That
Well,
finish
you're
them
able
up.
to hire those super sharp closers
Yeah, you pay
because,
more.
well, yeah, you can pay more, but also you've got, I mean, if you tell a salesperson, hey, we're getting about 4 quote requests a day, I mean, how much easier have you made their job?
Right.
You know? So, well, I think it's time for our Mount Rushmore segment.
Hey man, you're getting good. You remember the music?
I
Which
think
goes where?
so. I think the past few I've been doing it right.
Well, I
I've been
don't
doing
know
it the
well
same.
enough to call you out on it because I don't remember, but I trust you.
So, biggest mistake for Mount Rushmore, top 4 biggest mistakes you see on a website.
One of my favorites is to see the name of the company emblazoned in big letters across the above the fold. In other words, the first thing you see. I tell people this all the time. Nobody cares about the name of your damn company except you and your mom. That starts it off exactly wrong because it's not about you. And the answer, people say, well, I'm doing branding. I say, well, the best branding in the world is a happy client. So
Absolutely.
let's put some. We spend a lot of time talking about what goes up there, but that's the number one thing. Big, no calls to action. In my, you kind of redefined it for me, but I mean, you can't even email them. Contact us, even if it's not it's just like, okay, is their phone number on there? And then you got to grab your phone. You're looking on your desktop. So no calls to action. Too much text. And being clever rather than clear. But people really, there needs to be some text on there that hits powerful points. But people are not going to read a freaking novel on your website. So having too much text out there, and then kind of a repeat of the first one is it's all about the company and not the customer. You can have that stuff in there about us, clear on a back page down at the bottom. If somebody wants to know who you are and the history of your company, and where you came from and what your personal philosophy is, go ahead and put it over there. And if somebody wants to go look at it, they can. But don't put it where it occupies prime real estate, which is you showing the customers why you understand exactly what they want and how you're the one to give it to them. So those, I mean, we could go with more, but that's my 4. What are your 4?
No, that's good. Those are all good. And I feel like we should probably just do a big mistakes. I'll do a little short on all the mistakes you can make. So for me, I feel I've got 4 and I'm even debating changing them right now. I'll probably just go with them. So the biggest one that I see on websites is the knowledge curse, which you kind of highlighted too much text. This is too much text that doesn't speak at the customer's level. So if you think of like a scale of 1 to 10, and you're the expert about what you do as a contractor, you're on a level 10 in knowledge. Your customer usually is at a level 1, especially if you're working with homeowners. If you're working with other contractors, this may not be the case, but usually when you're working with a homeowner or even a business owner, they're going to be on, maybe a 1 or 2. Maybe the really savvy ones are at a level 3. And so what happens is you understand that your customers aren't an expert. So you do talk, you lower the knowledge level of how you talk on your website to maybe a 5 or a 6. Well, that knowledge gap, that knowledge curse is really that from level 2 where the customers are to where you're at on a level 6. That's the gap that you need to fill, and you need to lower even less. Your website, when you look at it, should be so simple. It's like, your 10-year-old nephew can read it and understand it. It's got to be something that's really clear, and it can't be speaking in language and terms that aren't understood by your target audience. Now, if your target audience is, a GC or, other, home builders or whatever it is, if you're targeting them specifically, you should be talking in language that no homeowner would ever
make
understand.
it even simpler.
Yeah.
Hey, to all our GCs out there, I'm just kidding.
No, just kidding. So the next thing is no CRM. And what I mean by this, yeah, it's great to be receiving leads and people filling out forms, all that stuff. But where is that information going? If it's just going to an email inbox, you're doing it wrong. It needs to go into a customer relationship manager, a CRM. We use HubSpot and with all of our contractors, and they love it. But it's a place where it collects all the data, keeps it really organized, like a contact book where they add themselves directly in there when they fill out a form. And it's deeply connected to the website where we can understand if they fill out a form, we know what pages they've visited on the website, how much time they've been there, how many visits they've had to the website. So a CRM is really powerful. Implement it even if you don't have a website. Go and do the CRM first. But yeah, if you have a website, get a CRM that's deeply integrated to your website. The next thing, you had mentioned no calls to action. I'm going to say no transition calls to action. And this is one that you rarely ever see with contractors is, hey, I'm not ready to buy from you, but I do want to learn more from you. Think about it in terms of dating. You're not going to go up to, when you're in college and you're dating, you're not going to go up to a random girl and say, hey, will you marry me? Right? It's just not going to happen. You have a transition there, a transitional stage where you say, hey, you want to grab coffee? Can I take you to dinner? And they say, sure. And you're not then going to go and say, hey, will you marry me now? You're going to have a lot of transitional calls to action of, hey, thanks for coming to our website. Here's a free ebook on how to choose the right contractor for your job. Here's an email with the 10 steps to create the best budget for your project. All these different transitional calls to action that helps people feel more comfortable getting to know you and do business with you and ultimately pull out their credit card. The last one, I mentioned this earlier, is there's no gallery of work. I can't tell you how many times I've been to a contractor's website and they don't have a single picture of a job that they've completed, and just a job in general, but then professional photos at that, they're not doing it either. They've got a picture of their trucks and a picture of their building, and that's about it. Maybe a picture of some equipment that they sell or whatever it is, materials. Go and get pictures of what your audience wants to see, completed jobs that look incredible. Yeah, those are my 4. If I'm choosing a George
Khalil,
Washington, yeah.
I got to tell you this, man.
What?
The first time I saw Diane, that's my wife, within an hour I asked her to marry me. At 44 years ago. So sometimes you can go ahead and ask them.
That's true.
But it doesn't work that often.
It doesn't work that often. Did she say yes?
She said no, that she
That's
was
what I thought.
going to another state. And I said, no, you're not. I convinced her to not leave the state. And 2 years later, convinced her to marry me and got married 42 years ago. So anyway, that's awesome. That's not part of being a contractor. But sometimes they can go straight for the big apple, the prize.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think my George Washington there would be the knowledge curse. You've got to speak at your customer's level and speak their language.
Well,
what about you?
Man, I like all of them. Just because it's a general philosophy that website that's about the company and not the customer is a non-starter. Just right there.
Okay. Well, it is time for quotes of the day. You've got one. I've got one. Go ahead and give us your quote.
This one's by Jeffrey Gitomer, and I can't remember the name of that book. I think it's a Little Red Book of Selling or something. But he said, people love to buy, but they hate to be sold. And that's kind of the whole idea here is we're not selling them. We're enabling them to buy from us at their pace and learning on our website. So that's mine. People love to buy, but they hate to be sold.
That's good.
What's yours?
This is actually, it's actually just a tweet, but I love it, from a guy named Dave Gearhardt, great marketer, usually on the B2B side. But he said, when you have a brand, people can actually get to know you first, and then they feel better about pulling out the credit card. A brand is not your website or logo. A brand equals your reputation. And I couldn't agree with it more. It actually doesn't stop with a website. That's an asset. Your logo is an asset. a salesperson is an asset. Your brand is your reputation. And throughout all of your assets, they're being judged, and they're being judged like a book by its cover. And then once you get to know those things, once you open the book, essentially, it's being judged even then by its content. And so from on every level, you've got to be thinking about your reputation. That's why contractors care a lot about their trucks and getting them wrapped. And that's why they care about people showing up on time and answering the phone and all these things. It's your reputation. Same thing goes for your website. It needs to be the best it can be. Your logo needs to be invested in. It shouldn't be clip art that you made on your computer using Microsoft Paint. Every little thing matters for your reputation. So,
that's another reason why you hire somebody who's good at it to do it, because if you're an amateur doing it, it shows.
It shows for sure. For sure. Well, Martin, what is something that people can actually go and do?
Well, you can go look at your website and show it to somebody at Starbucks. Go to Starbucks, open up your website and have them give you an impression. But I think specifically look for a call to action to see that you have an appropriate call to action. I'm going to throw another one in, is if your above the banner is the name of your company in big letters, we'll run a thing on how to come up with, but that's wrong. We need to find out 3 things that the customer cares about and put those 3 things up there and have your name, but it's in small letters.
Absolutely. Yeah. Go add a call to action to your website. Go and get your messaging right. Go and update your website is what you can go do. Talk to an expert, use your marketing team, whatever it is, go and update your website with calls to action that are clear and messaging that speaks to your audience.
Yep.
So I spoke about at the beginning a client that, we redid their website, but we also did some branding for them and a lot of content, all of their social media, all these different things. So I won't say that it's the website alone for everything, but right out of the gate, they won some pretty, 6-figure jobs just because they said, we went to your website and it looked better than everybody else's.
Yep.
I mean, sometimes when you're dealing with people who don't know the difference in what your work looks like and your competitor's work looks like, that's the difference. It's the confidence builder. Outside of that, there are some other big things that they've done. They actually had 2 salesmen that they weren't happy with and they let go, and they've never rehired those positions. They today have 0 salesmen at their existing branch. Now because of their growth, we were able to help them raise their sales from,
up 50%. And we're talking millions.
We're talking millions, so, raise their sales 50% in 18 months through all of the marketing. And that's allowed them to acquire a new branch in a different city. They acquired a branch of a company that was leaving the area, and they've added that branch to their business now. And that business has 2 salespeople. But what's great about it, they're literally using everything that we've done for their website, everything that we talk about their product and their services and the articles that we've written for them, all these different things to help educate their salespeople on how they do business, on how they run their company. And now the salespeople reference all of the things that are on the website when they're going into sales calls. So really cool stuff. And it just goes to show that I don't want to peg this as website versus salesman in a sense that it's one or the other, but if you do both, you're going to excel exceedingly. So, that's the end of the story there. Ethan, you ready for your insights?
I am ready.
Okay.
Got the cool music.
Yeah, got the cool music. Let's do it.
That music reminds me of me.
Let me know when you're ready.
Hit us up, Ethan.
All right, so today we talked about websites versus a salesman. A website is available 24/7, not just 95 on weekdays. A bad website can ruin a sale. If you don't have a call to action, put one on your website today and make it clear. If you explain a process on your website, make it a 3-step plan. Too many steps can become confusing and drive people away. Just make it easy to do business with you. Have clear answers on your website. Answer your customers' biggest questions first. They should be the questions that your customers ask the most. Give your customers proof why they should choose you. Put testimonials, reviews, case studies, photography, videos of your work to show them why they should choose you. Build your website before you try to drive traffic to it. Your website can give you and your customers clarity. Your website sells, qualifies, and explains the questions your customers want to know without you having to be present. And your website is not about your company. It is about solving your customers' problems. And lastly, eliminate the knowledge gap in your messaging, which means speak in a way that your customers understand. And that's it.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well
Ethan.
done. I like it. I think that was a good recap.
Thank you.
I thought that you did well there. Well, Martin, you're going back to Starbucks for a refill?
No, I'm finished for the day. I've got a lot of work to do. So I make it a point to quit drinking coffee by 9 o'clock every night, no matter what.
9 o'clock.
No matter what.
You're going to bed at 9:30, right?
Yeah, well, 9:15.
Oh, gotcha. Well, yeah, that's probably
you gotta quit
important.
drinking
You gotta brush your
sometime.
teeth, right? All right. Well, we appreciate it. Good stuff. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
See you next time.
Next time. Thanks, Ethan.
Thanks for listening to The Cashflow Contractor. Check out our website in the show notes or visit thecashflowcontractor.com.
What's up, Cashflow Contractors? Khalil here. Thank you so much for getting to the end of this episode. It means the world to us that you're listening. I've got a favor to ask. So we are looking for contractors who would like to have a free consult with myself and with Martin for about 30 minutes to an hour. We'll basically just ask you questions about your business, about what it's like for you to work as a contractor, and then we will answer any of your questions specific to your business. Then we'll make that a live episode for other contractors to learn from, to engage with. And we think it's a great way for people to really see clear, specific answers to problems that contractors have. So if that interests you at all, we're not going to share any of your information. You don't even need to say your name on the episode, but I think we want to get some more of these episodes out there. And if you're willing to do that, we've got a link in the show notes that allows you to just submit a form for a consult. Then we'll schedule it with you and record it, and we'll put you live on the podcast. So if that interests you, please check it out in the show notes. If not, no worries. Or if you know someone else that you think would be interested in it, send it to them. That'd be great. But appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, we hope that you're finding less stress, more time, and more money. Thanks.